Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co., and this is To Back or Not To Back, where we take a look at a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about the campaigns, the games, the pledge levels, the stretch goals, all of that and more, and of course, should you back it or not. Speaking of should you back it or not, throughout this video series, one of the things I do focus on is the value of games. Does it make sense to get them now in retail? If you sell it, will it work for you or not? And if you have any questions as to why I look at the value on games, I recently did a video, well, I did a video like 6 years ago, but I recently did another video just giving you a quick background on why I care about the value of games. It's not about the actual value, it's about the games and the opportunity to play them, but I dive fully into that video. I'll link to that down below. But with that, let's go ahead and start off. Starting off as usual with our cult of the now. As much as we like crowdfunding, as much as there's a lot of things in crowdfunding tempting you, there's also games you can get your hands on right now, and today we're focusing on Adulthood from Otherwise Games. I had a chance to check this out at Gen Con 2024. I had a chance to see this one, play a few rounds, but Adulthood is basically a game of going through a simulation of life. It's quirky, it's charming, it's definitely on the lighter side, but it is overall a fun time. If you've played games like Pursuit of Happiness, this will be in that vein. And coming in at $24, it's very reasonably priced. You can go ahead and check out some reviews and check it out, and then don't have to wait a year and don't have to pay like, $100 for an all-in pledge. It's straight to the point, Adulthood from Otherwise Games. From there, we're going to go ahead and dive into the campaigns, but of course, usual reminder and disclaimer that I am CMO of GameFound. Take that into account as we go through the series. And with that, let's go ahead and start off with our board game adjacent category, which is Foster the Meeple. Foster the Meeple 2024 campaign with 200 backers, $18,000 raised, 20 days to go. Foster the Meeple are a team of content creators, or I guess, two content creators, Jeff and Jamie, who do fantastic work on the channel, covering anything from topical stuff to to top 10 lists, to reviews, to crowdfunding previews, all of that and more. And their banter and charm in general, they have a degree of edge that is charming and delightful all at the same time. They're a funny couple on camera, and they are entertaining. They do an incredible job. They do an incredible job with the YouTube channel. And if you don't know them already, first of all, check out the YouTube channel. And if you do know them, this is an opportunity to go ahead and support their channel and possibly get various rewards from like playing games with them, behind the scenes stuff, things like that, if you want to go ahead and support the channel. That's basically Foster the Meeple's 2024 crowdfunding campaign. And with that, we're going to dive into the not yet funding category. In the not yet funding category, we have one game, which is actually a fairly interesting game in the way the approach that they are taking to crowdfunding. This is Crown Battles Claim the Throne, a trick-taking game with a variety of trick-taking modes. The general idea, like many trick-taking games, is you're going to be trying to win a trick. You're going to have a hand of cards. Very often, I believe you are bidding on the amount of tricks you think you can win, but then it has like 16 different modes of play as far as different things that mix that up. So if you're familiar with Rebel Princess, where they give you different ways to play, give you a core concept about the way to play the game, and then every game mixes it up, this is giving you that as well. So if you like trick-taking, it might be worth checking that out. If you like games like Rebel Princess, where there's a lot of different variety to trick-taking, it might be worth checking out, although they do have an interesting way they're approaching the campaign. Right now, with $4,000 funded, I am skeptical that they'll fund. It is certainly possible, but I'm a little skeptical that it will fund. But they have 89 backers, 27 days to go, and one of the things that they're doing is they're kind of giving you an option to buy the game with an AI pledge or a non-AI pledge. Basically, let me see if I can find the actual thing over here on the sidebar. I don't see the pledges. Expansion tiers, basic tiers. Here we go. So they kind of have, no, they don't have it here. They had a full breakdown somewhere on the page covering what they're effectively doing is they're doing a kind of AI options and non-AI options for pledging. So you can pledge the game and get the game in the current AI art form. You can also pledge for the human art form, which is more expensive, but it will only actually fund if they get 300 backers on the human pledge form. So effectively, if you want to support, human-driven art on this game, and you want to not get AI-driven art, but you want the game, there's an option to do so. But the only tricky part is, again, you have to they have to hit 300 backers on the campaign, and they currently only have 11 backers of the human art pledge, which means, and they say that all those backers will be refunded if that doesn't go through. If that pledge doesn't work, they're going to refund those backers, which puts the game in a slightly weird place. As far as anyone backing that, they definitely have a tier of what they have to go ahead and get to before that is actually sustainable or reasonable. I appreciate the opportunity. First of all, I appreciate the transparency in the campaign, and I appreciate the kind of putting the decision in the hands of the backers, like, hey, I need this much to actually deliver human-driven art, so if you want it, go ahead and back at that tier. But also, I'm not seeing this actually working, so it's an interesting way to approach things. I'm curious to see where the campaign finally does end up. That's going to be Crown Battles, Claim the Throne. Also, there's an interesting question there as well, which is what happens if they only get to, if they get to the $11,817 for funding, but then half of those are human backers and they need to be refunded because they didn't get the full amount. How is that going to play out or be handled? Interesting questions. I don't know the answers, but I appreciate the attempt, if nothing else. Moving on to kind of new campaigns, but not really. we have two campaigns to go through to begin the day off that are not even new, so to speak. We have Pandora Celeste, which recently funded over on GameFound, and they're doing a kind of last chance campaign over on Kickstarter. 24 backers, 50 hours to go, $2,938 raised. This is going to be a last chance to get your hands on Pandora Celeste before, I guess, they go through the, I guess I shouldn't say last chance. I don't know exactly when the pledge ban is going to be closing, but they're trying to tap into any possible audience they may have missed out on Kickstarter, and they're trying to get those additional, 24 backers currently on the campaign. This is Pandora Celeste is basically a space survival game where you're going to be worried about the various aliens in the ship who are attacking you and eating you. You're going to be playing your action cards in the game. You're going to be trying to basically accomplish your own goals, which may align with the other players and may not. And if this does sound adjacent to Nemesis from Awakened Realms, it is going to have an adjacency in the theme and overarching idea of the game, while being different in the actual execution of how the game actually plays. There's a few pledge levels over here. There's going to be the core game pledge for where we are. Core game pledge for $66. We have the deluxe pledge for $98. We have the acrylic all-in for $153. Core Minis all in for $187, and then we have the limited edition review copy prototype for $329. That's going to be your opportunity to go ahead and get your hands on Pandora Celeste. Again, this is kind of a last chance campaign, again, last chance-ish campaign for this. We already covered this in the previous GameFound campaign, just letting you know this exists here as well. Moving on, in a similar note, we have Runar, a different last chance campaign. This is actually called the last chance campaign, because unlike Pandora Celeste, this is basically from Ludus Magnus Studios. They've done several campaigns along these lines already. They did one for Black Rose Wars, they did one for Runar the Last Chance, and they did one for, was it Nova Aedas Renaissance? I want to say Nova Aedas Renaissance. They've done 3 campaigns that are last chance campaigns, where they're basically saying, hey, this game already existed, it already was on Kickstarter, and now right before delivery, we're giving you an opportunity to go ahead and get copies of the game that we already printed. This is basically, you're going to be getting this incredibly soon, I believe incredibly soon. You're going to be getting it very, very shortly. Let me see what the pledge levels say over here. They say, pledge March 2025, so soon-ish. I guess that's still a decent amount away. But that's basically the idea of these campaigns, to giving players, people an opportunity to get in on these games if they missed out on them already, at a higher price point. All the pledges over here are $20 or €20 higher than they were in the Kickstarter campaign. So if you did back in the Kickstarter campaign, you got it at a better price point. This giving you an opportunity to get in it at hopefully cheaper than retail pricing, but still, still a discount compared to retail, but more expensive compared to people who had the chance to back the game the first time round. Runar is going to be a game of, well, a skirmish game with a ton of things going on, from events to building up your characters, to assembling a team of various characters, mixing the deck together, and trying to take various actions, all as different things happen in the battlefield, all as you try to accomplish your goals. There's going to be a campaign mode, there's going to be single shots, there's a lot of things going on in this one. Beautiful production, beautiful miniatures, simpler gameplay than some of the other Ludus Magnus Studios games, although definitely not a simple game by any means, but definitely more accessible than some of the other titles. That's going to be Runar, a last chance campaign. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, I'm skeptical it will. In general, big box miniature games have already started to make the shift to being less and less viable as far as a game that you can back and get all your money back if it's not for you. And the additional €20 in pricing just makes that a little bit harder. It's going to be cheaper than possibly getting it directly from, their store down the road. Yeah, it's probably still going to be cheaper right now, but if you're looking at will it hold its value in the secondhand market, it's a bit more of a question mark, although a little less than the crowdfunding campaign, because that additional €20 more each per pledge. Moving on, we have a Nice Cuppa Scott Alm solo game from Button Shy. These are going to start the new games we're covering today, but a Nice Cuppa, the Scott Alm solo game from Button Shy, part of the Simply Solo line of games. 2,400 backers, $63,000 raised, 5 days to go. This is going to be another Simply Solo game. It looks vaguely reminiscent to Fishing Lessons. If you played Fishing Lessons, it kind of has that vibe. The basic idea is you're enjoying your warm cup of tea and you're trying to have a nice relaxing afternoon and not deal with the various worries and concerns of the world, which would be nice. The only problem is when I play this game, I'm inherently thinking of all the things I'm not getting done, so I don't know if that fully works, but for most people it might actually work. But it's a nice cup over here. You're going to line up your cards over here and then start trying to get your cards in the right order as you play various worries and concerns below the cards. They'll give you opportunities to move things and rearrange things, and you have to trigger them every single round as you go through them, and until you actually have a focused cup of tea, and then you can go ahead and get rid of these worries and concerns. But if you've played Fishing Lessons, this idea of having 2 rows of cards, one row is going to be messing with the where the other cards are, it will feel adjacent to that. So definitely a different game experience, definitely differences going on, but if you like Fishing Lessons, this is probably the same kind of puzzle you might enjoy, and if you didn't like Fishing Lessons, my guess is you probably wouldn't like this, because from what I can see, having not played it, but from what I can see of the games, they're very much leaning into the same kind of general structure of how they operate. Although I will say, I definitely prefer the art and themes of a cup of tea much more, although it would have been better had it been a cup of coffee. You still could could just theme it to a nice cup of coffee too, or I could think it's coffee. I could pretend it's coffee. That's fine. As far as the game over here, in general, for Open Shy Games, it's going to be the same thing as usual, which can be a $12 backing over here, $12 to back the game. I think it's $12. Was it 14? No, $12 to back the game. Retail price is $15, and then you're also getting the seasonal stresses as well. So in general, for Open Shy campaigns, getting that on the website later will cost you a little bit more. Getting the website will be getting it on the campaign will be a bit cheaper. You often get that extra expansion pack in for free for the first option, and you also have the opportunity to go ahead and get the good book expansion as an extra optional buy as well. So you have the base game, the first seasonal stresses expansion, and then the good book expansion, giving you new cards for both the stresses and for the actual T cards as well. They're going to be, each one gives you new cards for different sections of the game. That's the basic idea over here. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value. Generally, Button Shy games do have a hard time holding their value, just the nature of being very cheap games that in general, once you factor in shipping on these, most small box games are very hard to get your money back if they're not for you. But if you are interested in whether this is the best price to get the game at, best opportunity for you, past getting it used, this is likely the best opportunity for you to go to get your hands on the game. Their games on the website are always a bit more. That's why they have their last chance campaigns as well, or not really last chance. They have a seasonal roundups where Button Shy roundup campaigns where are usually an opportunity to get your hands on some of their more popular titles. So I'd say if you're interested in the game, probably a good time to go ahead and get it, but it still is one that is less likely to hold its value. Moving on, we have 23 Knives. 23 Knives coming to you from Play to See Games. Play to See Games, who first came to the table with Ascending Empire's reprint, they're now coming to the table with 23 Knives, a game of social manipulation in ancient Rome. 432 backers, 5 days to go. 23 Knives is a social deduction game where you're going to have 3 teams. You're going to have a team of people who are trying to kill Caesar, you're going to have a team of people trying to keep Caesar alive, and you're going to have a team of people who are trying to shift fate at the last minute. In the game, you're trying to make sure that the knives end up in the pile that's going to kill Caesar. If there are at least 23 knives, then the people who contributed to that pile, well, that team's going to win, with the person who contributed the most knives being the person on that team who won. If you ever played a game like Shamans, or not a game like Shamans, if you ever played Shamans from, I think, Hachette, that's going to be an example of a hidden role game where you're kind of on your own team. Because as much as there is a degree of team winning in the game, ultimately, if you kill Caesar, the person who contributed the most knives wins. If you keep Caesar alive, the person who's most loyal to Caesar wins. And alternatively, there's a team of people who will win if they manage to shift fate at the last minute. But meanwhile, as you play through the game, you're going to be trying to figure out what your allegiances are or how things will shift and sway in the game. Basically, social deduction with a degree of hidden roles and an interesting aspect of trying to add knives to a pile that will ultimately kill Caesar, trying to make sure that you're the one left standing at the end of it. The pledges over here are pretty simple, straightforward. It's the $35 pledge, which says from an MSRP of $40, which is going to be the tricky part of the should you back or should you not will hold its value. Because an MSRP of $40, especially once you factor in shipping as well. So we've got shipping over here, shipping is going to run you $14, which means you're basically paying $50 or $49 for an MSRP of $40, which usually is not worth it because you can get those cheaper down the road. So if this does have a retail option down the road, if this does go to retail, and again, it's hard to see because on the one hand, 432 backers isn't a huge amount of backers, which would have me a bit uncertain. On the other hand, Play to See Games is run by a bunch of industry professionals who have a lot of people in the industry behind the games, and so I assume they have those connections to make sure these games do go to retail, which makes me think there will be a retail option, and therefore this will be the more expensive price point on the game. So my own gut instinct from what I'm seeing over here is this is less likely to hold its value, and less likely to be the cheapest option to get your hands on 23 knives. Moving on over here, we have Lords of Heaven from by Phalanx. 152,000 euro raised, 1,860 backers, 10 days left to go. Lords of Heaven is going to be a drafting game with multi-use cards and area control, or not really area control so much as battling it out on the field. You're going to be drafting cards in the game which are going to determine your actions. You're going to be fighting it out over these cards. By the way, it's a great video. If you want to watch a good video, they'll give you a good overview. This will give you a good overview of the game. But it's coming from Phalanx, who tend to do these historical, tactical strategy games. But that's basically the core idea of the game. As far as the pledges over here, as far as what's going on, we're going to have the, well, this is tricky. They have a lot of things that they say that I don't know exactly how those maths work out. But we have over here the why back now. We have exclusive content, the wooden meeples available in the deluxe edition of the game. There's no retail for this edition, meaning the deluxe edition of the game is crowdfunding exclusive, but then you can get more at a great price. You're saving 170 euro or up to 170 euro compared to the retail edition of the game, which is implying that the retail is going to be significantly more expensive than the deluxe edition that you're getting over here, which that's a big gap. Like if that actually holds up, that's a very compelling reason to back, but I have a hard time buying into those numbers. And we have bonus items, content available for free during the campaign, no reprint for at least 3 years, stable pledge, and stretch pay. These are all the reasons to back. Some of these sound great, and some of these sound good, and I'm just having a harder time seeing the math in them. That said, ignoring the math for a second, the idea that this is the only opportunity to get your hands on the deluxe edition, that's probably true, at least for right now. No further reprint campaign for 3 years. We have the all-in pledge for 99 euro, which is broken down from 239 euro saved. Now, a few things are true over here. 99 euro for what you get over here does look pretty good. You have metal coins, that metal coins over here We have metal coins over here, we have a playmat, we have a free expansion, the third, well, nothing's free, everything's taken into account. We have the third Crusade expansion, you have the actual base game, you have the wooden upgraded meeples, all of that for €99 does sound good compared to what we tend to see nowadays a lot on crowdfunding. Nowadays you'd see the deluxe edition of the game for €99, plus the expansion for €20, plus the playmat for €30, plus the metal coins for €20, the card holders for another €5. This €240 for this is not crazy as far as what they're saying you get over here, and that could be tied into that €170 €170 they're saying you save compared to retail, although again I'm not fully finding that full breakdown of price, but maybe they just refer to all the extras that would be available separately. So it does seem somewhat compelling as far as the amount they're giving compared to where crowdfunding can be these days, but I also find that crowdfunding where it is these days is often overpriced. So is this a good price? It's for sure a good price compared to nowadays crowdfunding, but is it a good price in general? It does seem pretty decent. Again, even just the coins and the playmat alone can run you easily €50. Once you factor in the deluxe edition and the expansion and all the extras, it does seem like an overall good price point. It's hard to say for sure, but it does look overall a good price point. And then we have the deluxe edition on its own for €50, although that's also including the expansion. So if you don't care about some of those things, if you don't care about the metal coins and the playmat and you want to save €50, you can go ahead and do so and get this price point. Again, this still seems pretty good as far as the sheer amount of content that it's giving you in the game. All those things look pretty good. The card holders and the playmat, player mats, metal coins, People's Crusade and the Last Battle Meeples, all of that. That's basically what we got going on for Lords of Heaven. So as far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? I'm leaning towards yes. I feel a drop uncertain. I think Phalanx, their games in general, do fall into a mid-range. Some do fine, some not as much. This one does look like the sheer amount of content they're giving you compared to today's crowdfunding prices does look like an overall good back. Moving on, we have Everdell Duo over here. Everdell Duo from Starling Games. This is going to be a new 1 to 2 player competitive and cooperative and campaign-driven version of Everdell. It's very specific, hitting a lot of those buzzwords. So it's basically Everdell. It's the core game of Everdell, but then it's a 1 or 2 player game. It has a cooperative and a competitive mode, and there's a 15-chapter campaign. That's a lot of things to take into all at once, and then they also have oversized cards for the original Everdell, both base game and expansions. That's the main thing you're trying to get your hands on in this campaign. And the prices, by the way, they do seem pretty good. Pricing-wise over here, we have for $19 for the base game. Now, again, you do want to factor in that shipping. That shipping is going to run you, I believe, $10 was it? Or $9 for the base Everdell over there. So you're looking at $28 for base Everdell compared to a $35 MSRP. MSRPs, you'll often be able to get them a little cheaper, but it still does mean that pricing-wise, if you're comparing this to what you can buy it for down the road, this does look competitively priced. Will you make money in it? Not necessarily, but you might be able to get your money back just considering that this is reasonably priced, or at least most of your money back, considering this is reasonably priced compared to what it might be down the road. Although again, it depends if that $35 MSRP, will it actually be $28? Hard to say for sure, but in that general range, I don't think you're going to be paying significantly more for this, and you might be getting it sooner. I don't know. I didn't see them officially confirm. Let me see if they, I don't believe I saw them confirm that you'll get it sooner. That's the tricky part over here, and because they have these partnerships and connections, it may not be that you get it sooner. So factor that in when you buy it, but it does look like it's coming at a reasonable price point at the very least, although I think they may have said somewhere. Now I'm trying to remember where they said it. Was in the FAQ. They covered, will you be using, what are the funds? Will this campaign? No. No, no. It's exclusive. No, available to local stores. All the times may be able to local stores soon after the campaign has been fulfilled, but backers will be the first to ship at our best instructor pressing. So they do say first to ship. So it does seem like it's likely you'll get it first, so take that into account as you back. That's the core box for $19 for Everdell Duo. And then we have for the Everdell oversized cards for $20. We have the Duo and base game oversized cards for $39. We have the all oversized cards for $40. And then basically all in for $59, giving you absolutely everything, 20. So basically saving nothing. You're saving, well, you're not saving nothing. You're saving nothing compared to like the bundle. There's no bundled pricing over there. It's the same pricing overall, but still coming in, you know, if there's $20 for the cards here and $40 at retail, again, that probably is a savings. And then again, the shipping of that, shipping for even everything is going to run you only $12 for all of it, which makes it a fairly compelling back if you are interested in all those things for sure. So as far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say on the for sure on the holding its value, but it does seem reasonably priced. It does seem like you'll get it first, and it does seem like you have options to get basically everything here. Like even the oversized cards, you might not be able to get those at your miniature market or wherever. It's not always easy to say in terms of which upgrades are stocked. Everdell is popular enough that I can imagine the oversized cards being stocked. If you think back to the original Dominion like base cards when they re-released those were things you could find in retail, but for sure it gives you a guarantee of access to all this. So I'm kind of leaning towards if you are interested in this, it does make sense to probably back it, but it's just there's still things to think about and think about whether it's worth getting or not for you. Moving on over here, we have Sneferu, Builders of the Pyramids by Talama Games. 175 backers, €9,000 raise, 13 days left to go. This is a game of building pyramids. In the game, you're going to be gathering tiles from a central display, paying their cost in something, bricks or sand or something, or dirt, just paying the cost in some resource, and then also moving your boat along the river, which is the cost in time. So you're moving your boats along this river, which is the time. You're paying for, again, stone blocks. You're paying for something, wooden tokens, wood. You're paying for it in wood, paying for these various blocks, and you place them down into your own individual pyramid on the game. So you're grabbing these tiles over here, you choose a stone block, you pay for it in food, I guess it's food, and time, you move it along the river, and then you put it down into your own pyramid, being mindful you'll get rewards, but also as you close off various colors, you're going to get bonuses. So if you ever played a game like My Little Treehouse, no, it's not called My Little Treehouse, Best Treehouse Ever. If you ever played a game called Best Treehouse Ever, this will seem vaguely reminiscent. It's kind of the same economic puzzle as far as the way you're trying to block things off, although in that game you're trying to not block things off, but it has that tree structure and blocking off certain colors as you go. That's basically the core idea. You're trying to be the best architect left standing, because the rest will be forgotten to the ages of history. As far as the pledge levels for the game, pledge level is going to run you around €32 for the base game, and then €62 if you want the deluxe, including stretch goals and add-ons for the game. Although, of course, shipping as usual, shipping is going to run you additional €15 in the US for one copy of the game, which brings your €32 game up to €47, which is a much bigger jump in the price point. Not necessarily unreasonable, various retailers have to deal with those pricing and shipping as well, but it still just takes it out of the realm of being a more reasonable price point compared to other things you get your hands on. Which brings us to the should you back or should you not will hold its value. I think that with the 175 backers, there's not a ton of demand for this game, combined with the price point and the shipping that gets added to that, I think this is one that's less likely to be one that you get your money back if you find it's the one that's not for you. Moving on, we have Barrage Legendary Box, 3,061 backers, $237,000 raised, 15 days to go. Barrage Legendary Box is both the legendary box for Barrage, but also it's new content for the game as well. Specifically, two new companies, I believe they are, the two new companies. We're going to have the FAR companies, which are going to be the Japan and the Brazil company, with their own unique gameplay twists being added. We have the Legendary Box for €55. We have the Legendary Companies, which is the Legendary Box plus the new companies for €65, which is very reasonably priced in terms of the combination. They're kind of driving you to like, hey, get both these things and you save money. You're not paying €29 for the FAR companies now. You're only paying an extra 10 instead. And then we have the all-in for €279 if you want basically everything Barrage and you haven't gotten your hands in it yet. And then you have the ability to build your own pledge as well, with the variety of add-ons from this game as well as other games that they have in the campaign. As far as that, let's scroll down over here. You can see the new companies. Again, they have new small elements to the gameplay. They have content on the games around as well if you want to see how they play. The video, by the way, I do recommend checking out the intro video. Kind of shows you how everything's laid out. You can see it in this image over here. But if you want to get it much more like 3D-ish and cool looking, check out the video. It'll show you basically everything there. They also have a new company coming as well and a new map, I believe. So there is some more content planned for the Barrage game, and it will fit into that box. You can see over here, there's an empty seal over here. That's going to be the last company, and the last map will fit into the box. That's going to be more content coming for the game as well. As far as, and then the all-in is going to be like showing you all the various things. They all fit into the core box, into the core legendary box, and then of course they go from there. Well, there's shipping down here, so USA shipping around €14, and then just tons of content from their other games as well. Oh, they also have Steam. They also have a copy of the Steam Barrage Digital Edition that they're working on. They have the regular one for €10, and then the deluxe edition for €26. And you can go ahead and wishlist that and see all these things. Barrage, I believe, is playable on BGA, but it looks like they're coming out with a Steam edition as well as a computer AI-driven opponent for the game. And they have other games from them. They have Anuki over here, they have Rats of Wistar, Gollum, Lorenzo Magnifico, Newton, all these extra things you can go ahead and add to your pledge if you want anything from goodies to extras, deluxifications, all that stuff and more. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say on so many different things going on here, but I'll say on the core idea of the Legendary Box. I'm going to focus on the Legendary Box here. I think the Legendary Box will hold its value. That's not the kind of component that's easily sold in situations outside of crowdfunding, and so it's the kind of thing that if you don't get it on crowdfunding right now, it's going to be hard to get your hands in it. I will say Cranio they tend to do those kind of all-ins that you're seeing in this campaign, where it's like, look at all these things you can get from all our games, so you may have the opportunity to get the Barrage Legendary Box on future campaigns as part of those optional buys, but outside of crowdfunding, it's going to be limited access, it should be limited access, which means people who want this deluxe box for a deluxe game, for a game that's in the top 100, a very popular game, it's the kind of thing that can easily go in or out of print on a regular basis and be hard to get your hands on. And so I think it is one that is more likely to hold this value overall, just the nature of a very popular game getting a very big unique box for it. Moving on over here, we have the Quest Kids Realm of the Kingdom. 410 backers, 17 days to go, $28,000 raised. The Quest Kids Realm of the Kingdom is the Realm of the Kingdom expansion for the Quest Kids, as well as, a reprint and all their content and ways to get basically everything for the game. The game is basically a dungeon crawler for kids. It's got a 5+ age range, and I do believe it is playable at 5+, and I don't just mean that with like parental help. I think once you teach the kids the game, it's an easy game to pull out and table for younger kids. Well, maybe 5 might be pushing it. A 5-year-old is a young age. It is definitely playable for young kids. It's a very simple game where you're going to be wandering around cards, opening and flipping over the cards, gathering various things, and helping your teammates or helping your opponents in the game. They are opponents. You have other players who are trying to win the game, but you can help them and get rewarded along the way. So figuring out how to work together with people to make it a kind of cooperative feeling game, but with an actual winner in the game. It's not semi-co-op, mind you. It's a competitive game in which sometimes helping others can help you. Think of it like trading in Catan. It's about whether it's good for you, but it also can help the other players in the game. So that's the core idea of this dungeon crawler. There's a bunch of expansions all doing different things. The newest one is the Realm of the Kingdoms expansion, which will give you these new portals. It gives you, let's see if I can scroll down to where it is. It has the what's in the Realms of the Kingdom box, what's in the how to play Realm of the Kingdom. So it gives you like, it gives you the new portals. You have these new realms and these new portals, new resources, new areas to go to, things like that in this new expansion for the game. As far as the pledge levels, we have €29 for the new expansion. We have €39 for the Realms of the Kingdom plus the other new content. We have €72 for the base game in Realm of the Kingdoms, and from there it just gets added and added depending on what you have. I don't want to go through every single one of these, but depending on what you need or what you're looking for, all the expansions, the quest kits plus all expansions, the quest kits all in, just goes all the way up to $179 to get basically everything for this game. That's basically the quest kits. As far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. For the most part on the secondhand market, not as much. This is a game that's one of those games that's definitely meant for like a more family audience. It's meant for kids. I've played this game. I think kids enjoy it, and I think I would not play it unless I was playing it with kids. And that does mean that those types of games tend to do not as well in the secondhand market, and that holds up for the Quest kids as well. Moving on over here, we have The Winter Rabbit, a semi-cooperative game set in the world of Cherokee animal stories. I will say from looking at this, it definitely does seem to lean into that semi-cooperative aspect. This is a game where you either manage to all collectively gather and store your food, or if you don't, everyone loses, which I don't love that. I can't speak for this game because maybe this game is the exception. Generally, semi-cooperative games don't work. Generally, semi-cooperative games result in the players having to not intentionally spoil the game for others in order for the game to work, because otherwise you get stuck in these situations where once you're not winning, theoretically the optimal thing is to tank the game and make sure no one else wins. And this game definitely could have that from what I'm seeing of how it works. That said, I have played many semi-cooperative games and enjoyed them because I'm fortunate enough to play with a lot of people who aren't jerks, and we kind of just go ahead and finish the game and let you have your win. But the whole premise of it, the premise of asking the players to almost play suboptimally to ensure the game can work, I don't love that. If it works for you, great. For me, I've enjoyed semi-cooperative games, but I don't know if I have it in my collection for a reason. Past my little mini diatribe against semi-co-op games, you have 713 backers, $45,000 raised, 17 days to go. Winter Rabbit is a game of placing tokens down. You'll be gathering tokens, which you'll see, but others won't. You'll be placing down in various areas on the board, and once those areas flip over, depending on if there's a rabbit there or not, you'll either get the various tokens and food and bonuses if you have a presence there, or alternatively, those tokens will go, if there is a rabbit there, you'll have to fight and try to get those goods later. So trying to figure out where to place these various tokens based on what you think is going on is going to be a big part of the game. Meanwhile, you're ultimately trying to store this food in the game, and if you're able to successfully do so, then you can figure out who won, and if you didn't, then all players lose together. The game is going to run $59 for the game. It's basically plain and simple, $59, plus the shipping on top of it is going to be another, let's scroll down over here, it's going to be another rest of USA, Eastern Central, $15 on top of that, so around $65, $74 for the game, and then there's another option to pay a little more to work your way towards a donation, so that can be given to schools, libraries, language programs, and the like. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical it will. The game looks nice, 713 backers is a good number. They have brought games, I believe they've done crowdfunding before, if I'm not mistaken. This is not there, yeah, they've done a whole bunch of crowdfunding campaigns, but in general, I just think the price point on the game relative to other games out there, I just do think it is at a higher price point and is less likely to hold its value on the secondhand market. Moving on, we have Pest over here. Pest Guilds of Thurka expansion and second edition, 162,000 raised in Australian, I think that's Australian dollars, which rough, just to keep this simple the whole way through, just basically divide it by 2/3 or times it by 2/3, I think is the right answer. So we have roughly, what is that math over here? Roughly $105,000 raised or whatnot, 1,100 backers, 17 days to go, and that's less relevant for the how much is raised and more relevant as we go through the pledge levels over here. Pest Guilds of Thurka is an expansion and second edition for the game, and a second edition for the original Pest, along with fix packs, along with update packs, and along with the new expansion if you want it, or if you're new here, you can just get all the stuff new for the first time. Pest is a game, a competitive game, which you're going to be curing various people afflicted with diseases in the game as you wander the kingdoms with your person, that guy who's on the cover of the game, be wandering around the kingdom over there trying to optimize and build up your tableau in the game. Because you have an action selection system in the game, which is on your personal player tableau, where you're taking actions based on the intersection of where you put your guys. So you're trying to take multi-actions and figure out the right combination of these multi-action turns as you place things down, and then augmenting them based on, as you cure people, you can be able to go ahead and boost your own tableau and power up throughout the game. It's a pretty streamlined game. Well, streamlined is the wrong term. It's a pretty rewarding game which lets you build up your tableau and balance the various actions you're going to take, all while you wander the world and do good and attempt to get do more good than your various opponents in the game. You're trying to aggressively heal everyone better than the other players. That's kind of what you're doing in the game. Guild Attacker is going to give you an expansion which gives you the Council expansion. It gives you a few modules as well. I'm just going to go through the basic Council expansion. It's going to give you a new worker type over here, and it's going to give you a Council expansion that you're working your way up in the Council and a whole Council deck as well, and that gives you a Clusters module on top of that. As far as the pledges over here, we have the all-in for 306 Australian dollars, which again will be roughly $205-ish dollars. We have the retailer, which we're going to skip. We have the fixed pack for $1 over here. So if you back, if for owners of the first edition who want to receive only the replacement Capital City and Red player pieces, this is basically purely a fix. We have an upgrade and fixed pack, so this gives you the upgrade to the second edition, as well as the thing. It's going to be on you 15 Australian dollars, which again is around $12-ish dollars, something like that. And then we have the new items essential for 60, which is around $40. New backer essentials for 183. So around 120 or so, and the new items deluxe for 152, so around 100 or so. And then finally, a deluxe bundle second edition of basically everything second edition for 245, which is going to be around 165, 170 dollars. That's basically what we have over here for Pest. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, this seems less likely that it will. If you look at the second-hand market over on BGG for this game, while the original people who first sold their game did get most of what they paid, the original game was around $90 for, was it $100? I think it was $100 on Kickstarter. But you look at that, you see a few people who got that back. Well, there was a $79 standard version and a $99 deluxe edition. But then outside of that, for most of the backers who have sold their game since then, they're getting like anywhere between $30 to $40, sometimes for the standard edition, sometimes for the deluxe edition, but that's basically a very large hit on what this game was going for. So just taking that into account, I think this is definitely one that's less likely to hold its value, just based on a very large drop in the second-hand market on this game. That's basically that, which means we have one more campaign to go through today. We have Sefirot Silver Seals over here. This is going to be Sefirot. It's going to be a reprint and expansion not expansion, a redone version of the game. Sefirot Silver Seals is the award-winning tarot board game returns. This is more tarot. I've had a chance to play this one. I'm not the target audience for this. It basically feels like a solitaire game, although to be more specific, there's a solitaire, a competitive, and a cooperative version of playing the game. So a bunch of ways to play through the game. Supposedly they've streamlined all those versions as well. With 24 days to go, 964 backers, $91,000 raised. Sefirot is basically going to have you, let's focus on the basic solitaire version from there, and then past that there's a teams and a co-op version. But the basic solitaire, that's actually the teams version. That's our, let's see if there's a board for the solitaire. The basic idea is, well, I can focus on this well enough. You have a deck of cards with both major and minor arcana, and you're playing those cards onto the board. Again, slight differences depending on how you're playing the game, but you're playing those cards onto the board to specific regions, and you're going to have your major arcana kind of prepping the value of minor arcana it can hold. It basically is a card placement game similar to solitaire, where you're playing through a solitaire-like game of trying to just make the deck work so you can get everything done, but based on how and where you play the cards and how you strategize around, what's likely to come out next, or, can I handle different values of cards over here? So it's a solitaire puzzle of basically placing everything out correctly in the game. And there's also a new tarot-like game mode in the expansion, which in the new version of the game, which I don't know anything about that, unfortunately. As far as the pledge levels over here, we have a bunch of pledge levels. I'm going to try to focus on the main ones specifically. We have €35 for the upgrade over here, and I'm going to focus on, here we go, the board game. €55, around $61 for the board game, and then €75, around $83 for the board game plus deck, and then we have the deluxe edition for $110, and then from there we get to Sefirot the Lost Cards for $161, and then $331 and $554. That's retail. We can ignore that one. $331 is going to be where the non-retail versions cap out at. But as far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, this game has actually done pretty decent on the second-hand market. I wouldn't know or expect that. Well, I guess I know that. I don't expect that. But it is one that you are still losing some value on this, especially with shipping. Shipping over here is going to run you around €20 for the base game over here, €25 for the base game to the US, which is definitely a big chunk added on top of the game, and that's the main area we're going to be losing on, because from what I've seen on the second-hand market, again, the base game is running you over here, around, for the base game over here is $61. There's people who've backed the original game or paid for on the second-hand market anywhere from, $70 to $90 for the game, which is more than what this game is costing you, although it does depend on which pledge levels are there. But then past that, the €25 where you're going to take take that hit. So I'd say if you look at the second market, and there's not a ton of sales, so it's a limited data pool, I would say this is one that you're more likely to still lose something on, especially with the shipping, but it did do better than I thought it would, so there's at least that. And that's basically what we have for today, which brings us to our picks of the week. Picks of the week is going to be where I take a look at I pick two games, the game I think is most likely to hold its value, and then my personal interest pick of the week. And my value pick of the week is going to be the Barrage Legendary Box. I think this is a very popular game and a very unique expansion for that game, and so not expansion, but you know what I mean, a very unique addition to the game, and I think people will want this well past the 3,000 people who are currently backing this. I think that over time this is going to be one that's sought after, and if you have the Barrage Legendary Box, it will be sought after and you'll be able to get your money back on it. And then as far as my personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to go with Everdell Duo. I love the Everdell universe, and I'm excited for more ways to play Everdell, and the idea of a cooperative and competitive campaign like that. I'm intrigued by it. I'm nervous. I don't know if it's going to work for me or not. Like, that's a big shift mentally from what Everdell typically is, but it's one that I'm still happy to try, and it's a universe and setup and a game system that I really enjoy, and so I'm looking forward to this game. As far as upcoming campaigns over here, we have two things coming up. Well, we have more than two things, but I always focus on 2 or 3 campaigns. We have the Referral edition reprint and more from 20th Century Games with 4,000 people following the campaign, 4,500 people following the campaign. This brings you Ra and Right, and Ra Traders, as well as Razzia, which is less what I'm interested in, but those other 3 have me very intrigued. They're launching next week. And then we have over on GameFound, we have Cyberpunk 2077, the board game, with 60,000 people following the campaign. This is going to be a big deal from Go on board. I've played this game. I really enjoy this game. You should be able to see coverage on this one from me tomorrow. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. What's the internal temperature of a tauntaun? Lukewarm.